Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring Demon Gate, Beyond the Sea of Falling Skies. If you haven't seen part 1 of my review featuring this exotic expansion for the Demon Gate apocalyptic fantasy role-playing game, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to continue with the background history, the lore of the setting. We have information on the 49 clans. As far as we know, in the 7th era, close to the 400th year of the Age of Dawn, many Terrans and Mentep were the ones to settle on the continent known as Mienwu. It is said in old records that when they came to the mystical east, the lands looked ancient and unharmed by mere mortals. The archaic forests and mountains were so wild, mystic and magical. Merely walking among the trees or breathing the pure air was intoxicating. The beauty of the forests and the mist was also untouched, as the wilderness looked as though it had been as such for thousands of years. Trees great and thick, like the forests of the Shadinar territory, where the elves made homes in the treetops. The vast woodlands of Mienwu had stood for millennia without the destruction that mortals would inevitably bring when using the resources of the land. However, the clans were not the only ones to inhabit the lands. In truth, there were creatures already inhabiting these places. The Oni were already in the Tagawa province, dug in deep in the mountains, beyond the Yeti tundra, as were the elusive Kitsune clans. The Oni had begun to swarm what is now the Tagawa province to Gale. Small battles would take place for many years between the species, but never anything massive. The Kin Wars would cause great strife in all other parts of the world in the 9th era. Nearly 900 years after the first humans arrived in Mienwu, or so they believe. It was in the year 9E 550, and many did not wish to war with other mortals any longer. Thus, the 67 clans moved across Mienwu and attempted to seek sanctuary and peace in what is now known as the Ancient Forest into the Tagawa province. So many had died during the Kin Wars all over the world that people needed a time without bloodshed. The clans began to construct temples in Mienwu, one for each clan that would represent their new way of thinking. This new outlook on existence was a path of inner peace, and it was built to unify all people, whichever race, whichever creed. It became a new religion of sorts, taught at all temples. It was an order that did not provoke prayer to gods necessarily, but to seek peace within oneself through the elements and spirits of nature, mind, body, and soul. This belief did not cast out the belief in gods, but focused more on appeasing the spirit within and the spirits of all things. It became known as Yanshidao. Loosely translated from Raikanu to Gothan, it means the path or the way of tranquility. All would be accepted to come to these temples to share understanding and bring ancient wisdom. Writings and literature, poetry for those who wished to share such vast knowledge were all welcome. The war for territory and fiefdoms would still last for another 100 years, though before that, the echoes of it would finally reach the land of peace. The Oni would inevitably fall upon Mienwu in an all-out assault from the half-demon horde. The Oni would attempt to take the fruitful land for themselves. Their onslaught killed thousands more mortals, and many of the clans were wiped out in a war that would be called the Massacre of the 17 Temples. This war ended with the defeat of the clans, for they had lived many years as a peaceful people. The Oni had toppled many temples and slaughtered so very many of the clans, and after their victory, they had instituted new laws upon the communities that had survived. They made their religion illegal, and the prayers of Yanshidao would be words of blasphemy, worthy of execution. They took all weapons from the populace and made them illegal for commoners to carry. They took all magic from them and outlawed all spells and books and writing of any kind. The 50 clans that remained had to devise secret plans of action under the rule of the Oni. Since their chants were outlawed, they created a peaceful demonstration of defiance by constructing a mantra in a different form. They knew that they were slowly being cut away into annihilation. They used the knowledge and the unity that had once brought them peace to create a network of training. In their daily routines, they schooled without weapons in the forms of martial arts and what would later become the art of the Dai Cho, or spell swords. Fighting monks, such as the Sohei, practiced in rows of what would be called simple exercise techniques to promote health. These were continuously taught each day. They were techniques of fighting disguised as something else. It would take 10 years before the rebellion would first spark. The attack came from what is later written to be Clan Number 50, the White Dragon Clan. It was due to their sacrifice that they would forever go down in history as the inspiration that won the rebellion. Many elite fighters wore the red sash. It became called the Red Sash Revolt, for it was an obvious statement about the mistreatment of all that had died in the lotteries over the years. The Mu Dai was truly born during this war. Their mastery of fist, blade, and spell would break through the Oni ranks, and these mystic warriors could vanish back into the haze, much like the ninja that they used to help win this war. Trickery, spells, and intuition were very important in the military tactics of the Tagawan rebellion. Many battles and skirmishes were fought using guerrilla strategies, due to the clans being outnumbered. The Dai Cho still keep the time of training required to become a Mudai to 10 years. The ninja schools, much like the spell swords, were arduous with grueling training necessary to learn the guerrilla skills that would be needed to take on these giant half-demons. Entire ninja clans were born, and their focus in spying and successfully pulling off reconnaissance missions was invaluable to the rebellion. In the end, though, the clans were victorious. It was at a great cost, and the final battle took place on what is now sacred ground to the people of the land. The Tower of the White Dragon has been rebuilt since the war, but it served as the final battlefield of the Tagawan rebellion. The clan that is now labeled Number 50 is no more. There will never be another clan Number 50 in honor of their sacrifice. They lured the Oni warlord Moth Jacket to attack at a full-scale invasion upon their location, letting him think that more of the clan generals were there. Clan Number 50 eventually fell under the massive Oni invasion, but the attack had led their forces into a trap from which they would not escape. Let's talk about the Raikanu language now. The language that dominates Mianwu at this current time is Raikanu. However, Kothan is still popular all across the country and still dominates the lands of the northeastern realms. Just as Kothan is a mixture of many different languages, created as a trade tongue for all species to learn a common tongue, Raikanu is very similar in this regard. During the creation of Raikanu, Terran descendants of the Forgotten World combined many elder languages their people had brought from the old worlds. Several different tongues were formed into Raikanu, primarily languages of Terra and the dialects of Mentep that were being spoken in the desert lands of Vazun the Naal at the time. Raikanu is a syllabic language, and the name means the speech of clans. So, the symbols would be written out originally as Raikanu, with 3 different symbols that would be joined into one to create a word. Many of the cities and towns were already named before the total formation of the Raikanu tongue, still using ancient languages that were brought over from the forgotten world of Terra. It is claimed that the Terrans possessed many beautiful languages of their own when they were enslaved and brought to this world by the demons. It is also agreed that it is the same with most species that are currently known. Many had languages already established in their time and within their own cultures, but were either forced to learn something new or by choice, choosing to defy their captors by creating their own language. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part, we are going to take a look at the northeastern realms of Koth. I really like this history. It feels quite realistic. Everything from a religion that weakened or made their practitioners docile to the point of them being enslaved, to their rebellion practicing martial methods to carry out those guerrilla operations in order to obtain freedom. Adding to that, the clashing between species and the realistic handling of language, It all feels so real within the fictional context. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.